Hello everybody, it's Josie here. I am doing a kind of a mid-month wrap-up today because I tend to read quite a few books throughout the month, and I always find if I leave everything to the very end, or if I leave kind of loads to talk about, I either rush through them or I don't talk about them properly, and I always go, I wanted to say something more. So I thought I'd do a bit of a wrap-up. So the first two books, totally contradicting myself, that I'm going to talk about are The Passage and The Circle. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I have filmed separate videos on these two. What I will say is The Passage is basically a dystopian about kind of vampires. And I would say it's very comparable to The Girl with All the Gifts, but definitely not as good. And then you've got The Circle. And The Circle is about a group of teenage girls that find out that they are witches, that they have powers, and they have to come together to defeat the evil and form the circle. And this is actually Swedish, and it's set in Sweden. These are both beginnings of series, so I believe they're both trilogies. What I'll say about The Passage is I will not be continuing on with that one, so that gives you a good idea. And then The Circle, I really liked this. What I liked about it, it had a bit of grit to it because it is Swedish rather than being, I think if you say high school and witches and it's set in the US or the UK, it'll be sort of fluffier, whereas this, I like that kind of Scandi noir feel to it. So really like this 4-star read for this genre, and I will be picking up the next book in the series very soon. So those are the first two. Then the second one, well actually this was the first book I read this month, is this one over here. It's Slade House by David Mitchell. Full disclosure, I picked this up because I like the cover. So I was in a charity shop and I saw this, so I don't know if you can see it. First of all, that white is gorgeous, and then do you see the red kind of coming through? So when you undress, let's undress this book. When you undress it, it has a gorgeous cover. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? And then look at the back. Oh, I love this. So aside from the fact that it's pretty to look at, David Mitchell is kind of well-known author. I think this is probably his thinnest book. His other book, I think Bone Clocks, and they are very, very large. But what this one is about is you've got this place called Slade House, and throughout the years, people have gone missing around this house. So there have been reports of missing people, and Slade House comes up a lot. The first, and what it is you've got a bunch of stories, interconnected stories. So it's essentially like short stories, but they're all centered around Slade House, and there is a theme that weaves its way through it and characters that weave their way through it, which I really liked. I really liked that idea, and I hadn't really seen that much of it previously, so I thought that was good. It starts in 79 and I think it ends in 2015, so it kind of goes throughout the ages. So I liked it. I thought it was interesting. Supernatural, horror-y kind of themes. What I would also say though about this is that I've seen it build in some places as YA. I would definitely say it's adult because there is some sexual content, particularly towards some of the later stories that I would definitely class this as an adult book, or sort of older YA, but in the genre of adult. I really liked it. I thought it was a really interesting and unique concept. So I would give this 3.5 to 3.75 to maybe 4 stars. Then the next one, after that really indecisive rating, is this one over here. So this is A Close and Common Orbit by Becky Chambers. I loved the first book in this series. So for those of you who don't know, Becky Chambers has written this, which is a trilogy at the moment. I really hope she writes some more, but it's a series of books set in space essentially. So you've got, it's sort of in the distant future, you know, we've colonized other planets, you've got different species, and it's all set in space and spaceships. But what I love about the series, so the first book, A Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet, I gave 5 stars to, one of my all-time favorite reads, which shocked me because it's a sci-fi book. But what I love about the series is that it really focuses in on the relationships and sort of what it means to be human, what it means to interact with people from different species and different walks of life and different opinions to yours. The discussion on gender and gender fluidity is incredible in this book. Well, in all of the books, but she really takes on this kind of idea of what does it mean, what does it mean to be a parent, what does gender mean. It's so interesting, the relationships. The first book has a gorgeous kind of queer romance. We essentially class it as a queer romance, but and it is so gorgeous, and it really, and the other trope that I love about these books is that it's that found family trope, and the idea that no matter where you come from, who your kind of birth family is, you can find those people that will love you and accept you for who you are and become your family. So I love all those things. Like I said, the first book was an absolute 5-star. This one, I would say 4.5, only because I liked the slightly bigger breadth of characters we had on the first one. This one very much focuses on the character of Lovelace, which you meet in the first book. And I'm not gonna tell you too much of the story, because if you haven't read the first one, it might give that away. But Lovelace is struggling with the idea of humanity and finding yourself. And it's fascinating. But you've got Lovelace and you've got Pepper and you've got Blue. These are the 3 main characters. And you with Pepper's story, you see what happened to her as a child, and then how she grew up, and you kind of have past and present. And I thought that was really fascinating, but that was it's very much so, where A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet had sort of a wide angle focus. This one has got a very tight angle focus, if you're kind of thinking of comparing it to how you would make a film. But it's still beautiful. And these kind of books, they really make you think long after you've put the book down, I find. And I've got the third one. I can't wait to get to that. I'm definitely going to read it. Some people have said that you can read them out of sequence. I suppose you could, because in a sense, this book is about those 3 characters and it sort of stands alone. But you do get introduced to Pepper and Lovelace in the first one, and you kind of have Lovelace's backstory there. So I would still read them in order. And the only other thing I would say about the second one is it doesn't have as much sort of action, I guess, as the first one. In the first one, you're on the Wafer, which is a ship that punches holes in space. So there's a bit more action around there, whereas this one really just focuses in on those 3 characters and their progression and Pepper's kind of coming of age and their relationship. And like I said, and what does it actually mean to be human, I guess. So really, really good series. Highly, highly recommend. Then this one, this is a trip. So The Girl in 6E, this book. So it's a thriller. I really like thrillers, but the reason I'm laughing is that this one, the main character, Dina, in this book is a cam girl. Now, if you don't know what cam girl is or what cam girls do, they basically, it's a website. Typically men will go onto this website and these girls will chat with them online and essentially have cyber sex and perform sexual acts online for the men, usually catering to certain fantasies, certain things that they want. So, warning, if you don't like reading about that, if you don't particularly like reading about sex or are going to be squeamish about quite graphic, detailed things to do with sexuality and sex, this is probably not the book for you. There's a lot of focus on that, and there's actually a note from the author in the back saying that she did a lot of research and she spoke to a lot of cam girls, and that really comes across. I kind of find it fascinating. I'll be totally honest. I knew about cam girls, but just the breadth of what is asked for and what they get up to is interesting. The other aspect, and I suppose the more thriller aspect of this book, is that Dina has been in her apartment for a number of years. She never goes out because she considers herself a danger to the outside world. And that's kind of interesting, and that's sort of, I'm not going to say any more because it's kind of where the thrillery aspect comes in. What I would say about that is I did see every plotline and every twist coming way before it did. So from a thriller aspect, it wasn't, it was a good story. It was okay. Not the best thriller I ever read, but I did actually quite like the cam girl aspect of it. So I would say it's still a 3-star read because, yeah, that kind of fascinated me. What can I say? Then the next one I read is this one over here. It is Under My Skin. So it's actually by Juno Dawson. Juno Dawson writes YA, which I really like. Her novels are, even though they're kind of fun YA novels, and this one is no exception. So you've got Sally, who is quite a meek, low self-esteem character, and she walks into a tattoo parlor one day and gets a tattoo of a pinup, and mayhem ensues after that. I won't say too much because I think it'll kind of ruin it, but this does have fantastical elements. So there's fantasy and fantastical elements woven in with the story of Sally and her being at school and her friendships and her own kind of struggle with self-esteem and acceptance, and I think that's what I love about Juno's books. Although they're kind of fun to read from just a fun YA read aspect, when you kind of delve a bit deeper, there is quite a lot under the surface, and there's a lot of discussions around body image and how you view yourself and confidence and those kind of genres and topics, which I find really fascinating, and I think it really adds. So 3.5 stars on this one as well. And then the final two, I won't probably go too in depth actually with both of these, because I will be doing separate videos. So the first one is The Devouring Grey, and how cool is sprayed edges, right? I don't know what it is, but this is a nice pink. So this is one of my sort of anticipated reads for the month, and this is brand new. And I wanted to read it because people were billing it as sort of a Riverdale type scenario. So you have this town, and this town has founding families, and the founding families are meant to protect the town from this kind of evil entity in the grey, sort of monster. And the founding families have sort of powers and things like that, and that is interesting concept. I did like some of the characters. I kind of have, I've just finished reading this, so I sort of have mixed thoughts about it, so I'll go more in depth in my in-depth video on it. But I was left, unfortunately, a little bit underwhelmed at this point. It was good, but not as good as I thought it was going to be. So I would give it 3 stars at the moment, but I'll collect my thoughts properly and I'll do a more of a detailed video on this one. And then, speaking of detailed videos, my classic for the month is this one, The Haunting of Hill House. And again, I'll do a classics wrap up and I'll talk about this more in depth. But essentially, I must be the only person on the planet that hasn't read this, and I've even got the tie-in cover. But you've got this house, Hill House, and a group of people that go there because it's reputed to be kind of supernatural goings on in this house. And they go stay there. And I liked it. Again, the ending left me underwhelmed. I feel like it does have those elements of sort of that gothic old world thriller, which I liked. I don't know why, I liked the beginning more. There's a part where I actually took a quote and I Facebooked it because I loved a quote in this book, and I'll try and find it and I'll put it in the other wrap-up video. But right now, I'm leaning towards 3.5 stars as well. I think the theme for this video is 3.5 stars, except Close and Common, but yeah, like I said, I'll do a bit more in-depth again with my thoughts on The Haunting of Hill House. So yeah, so that's me for now. I will speak to you all again very soon, and have a good day. Bye-bye.